Today we're going to cover the Delaware Bay. There's a couple things that we should definitely talk about before we cover the Delaware Bay. A couple of those things are going to be weather and, well, weather as in stuff falling from the sky, and whether or not you should actually make that trip. So before we really get into it, again, today is always these things are always in partnership with a bunch of different people out there. We have John Anderson, who covered a couple items on the Delaware River. We have Happy Captain's Boating Instruction. Captain Ed's been on the call a couple times now. He's going to be covering a couple spots along Jersey Shore. Sea Scout Ship 117. They're also going to cover a couple spots along the Jersey Shore. A couple housekeeping items. Please, we're going to attempt to edit this and get it online. Again, I try to do it when I can. I don't always do it and get it out as soon as I can, but I mean, as quickly as I should, but I do try to get it out there and get it up. Caitlin does do a good job editing it, but it can be difficult to do so, especially if people use profanity or if people don't treat other people or places with respect, because we got to find those things and pull them down. Also, let's try to keep this to a no politics, no stress kind of an evening. Try to keep your cameras off and your microphones off as well. That's equally important because, yeah, I don't know where it is on the screen, but my face appears, someone else's face appears. Again, it gets weird to kind of cut out. Please mute your mic. I've talked about that. If you want to ask a question, there is a place for you to raise your hand. It's to push the 3 buttons at the bottom of the page. If you press that, there's a button that says raise your hand. Feel free to do that if you have any questions. I might not hear you, but Caitlin is on the call. She is going to be monitoring the questions and the hand raising. And if I still miss you, just kind of say something and get my attention. So let's talk about weather. There's a couple of things to kind of really think about here. Have a couple of things up on the screen. First thing I have up is something called the Bufort scale. This is a scale that compares the wind speed and what it does to the surface of the water. I pulled this down from, I believe it was the Naval Institute. It ranges from force 0 to 12. A wind speed in knots from 0 to hurricane force, basically 64 or 65 miles an hour. A calm day, 0 to no wind, basically 1 mile an hour or 1 knot, is going to give you no wave, right? No waves, right? It's going to be a mirror-like surface. If you're going to go out on a day like that, that's absolutely beautiful. If you ever got out first thing in the morning or just at dusk and you're driving along on that water and your boat's the only thing breaking that water surface and seeing those ripples, it's absolutely pleasant to experience that. And the next step up, they call it a force 1, is your speed increases to 1 to 3 knots. You have a light air moving around, and you get about a 1/4 foot of wave height. And what does that look like? It looks like some ripples with the appearance of scales are formed, right? Basically just some small movement on the water. Let's jump it up a couple more, right? So we're going to jump up to 7 to 10 miles an hour. If we look outside today, we can look it up in a couple moments, what it's going to be on windy, and then we'll know exactly what it would be on the Bufort scale. So 7 to 10 miles an hour is a gentle breeze. That's a large wavelets, they call it. So waves might have some breaking crest with some light foam, and the foam can have a glassy appearance. Then it just slowly gets larger and larger and larger. Okay, for today's kind of talking points, if you want to write some stuff down here, so we have some distances. If you want to know some distances, real quick, Chesapeake City, the anchorage to the end of the C&D Canal is 13 miles. If you travel at 8 miles an hour, that's an ETA of basically 1.5 hours or 1 3/4 hours. The end of the C&D Canal, where if you go from the Chesapeake City anchorage to the Delaware and to the beginning of the Delaware Bay, that is now 22.5 miles. If you're going to go from Chesapeake City anchorage to Cape May, the mouth of the Cape May Canal, that is 59.5 miles. Or at 8 miles an hour, that is 7.5 hours. So as we're talking about weather, it's important to be able to really look ahead and be able to estimate when you're going to be where. We don't necessarily have to know, well, we do have to know what is the weather going to be right now, right? If we look, everybody looks out the windows right now, we can see that the branches are moving. We can see that the leaves are kind of swaying back and forth. It's overcast. And it was really kind of breezy today. I don't know if that's really kind of a pleasant day to be out on the water. It's all, I mean, what does that look like on the water? I guess we should look to see what does it look like on the water. Okay, can everybody see? I should now be displaying the Windy app location. Okay, good. I see a couple thumbs up. That was successful. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on our area so we can see what we're looking at. Okay. Not exactly sure where everybody is at this present time, but if I were to click where I am, if I were to guess where I am, probably right about here. Okay, on your screen, where I am is that crosshair. Okay, on the top left, it says, bring that back up. I don't want that. Go away. Close. I want right now. And it's telling me that it's blowing at 10 miles an hour right now, roughly where I am. Okay. If I were to take a guess, I think, Ed, you are somewhere at the shore. I think you're over here. I think you're somewhere over here. And it's still saying it's blowing 10 miles an hour on the shore. Okay. It's kind of deceiving because if you look out there, sometimes it's blowing nice, sometimes it's not blowing nice. So then we can kind of drill down a little further, and maybe we want to look at the gustings. All right, so I have wind selected. So let's display more options. I'm going to scroll down until I find wind gusts. I can annotate it here. Wind gusts. Right there. Stop annotating. Click that. Now this paints a little bit of a different picture. Okay, same spot where I think Ed is. It's saying it's blowing at gusting at 20 miles an hour. If I slide it over to where I'm at, it's gusting around 25 miles an hour. Quite a bit different. So why is this important? let's look to see what it's doing on the water. Okay. When you are walking around outside your house, the wind would hit you and you would kind of get moved and you didn't really think about it. Or if you were in your car, really didn't think about it much because we have all these things around us that the wind hits before it hits us, right? It hits the trees, it hits the houses. The only things that really get affected by the wind is the plastic bags or the trash cans getting blown across the street. You don't realize how strong the wind is until you are on a field that has no obstructions, or until you're on the water that literally has no obstructions. The only obstructions that you have on the water is the water itself. As the water hits the, as the wind hits the water and it blows along it, it will build fetch, right? I believe earlier I said for every 10 miles an hour blown on 1 mile of water, you're going to get about a foot or a half a foot of a wave. Okay, so if we look at this scenario of the Delaware Bay, I'm going to zoom in on it here. Okay, let's click on the Delaware Bay and see what it says here. It's interesting. In the Delaware Bay, it's saying that it's gusting at 26 miles an hour. Let's go onto the shore, still 26 miles an hour. That's good. So I'm not sure that's something that we want to be riding into. I mean, being offshore and 26 mile an hour isn't something that's quite surprising. I mean, it happens. But we shouldn't only just be concerned about wind, right? We should also be concerned about the current. I'm going to switch apps. I'm going to switch apps and I'm going to jump over to the Garmin Navionics. Okay. And I want to look at, we're going to look at the exact same area. And I want to look at the direction that the current is going. We're looking at the arrows. I know we've talked about these a couple of times, but they really paint us a good picture as we want to make this go into a good decision if we're going into this area, right? If we look at this current arrow, I can ask it a question. Hey, what are we currently doing? It's saying right now the current is going out. We can look in this bottom left side here. I'll annotate it. It's right over here. I think I get rid of this block so you can see it. The tide is going out at roughly 1 mile an hour. Okay, but what direction was that wind also going? The wind is going towards the current, right? So should I just stop sharing? No, I didn't. Okay. The current is going this way, and the wind is going this way. That's not going to be a pleasant ride. Okay, so let's see what this does. We jump back over to the Windy app. I'm sorry for jumping between apps, but sometimes it's what you have to do. I'm going to change the view on Windy again. I'm not sure if anybody notices this or not, but I want to annotate this is I'm using the free side. It says Go Premium. I'm using the free side. I'm not paying for this right now. This is all free. Nothing that I'm using right now is a paid subscription. I'm cheap sometimes. Okay, now I want to click on the waves function. I'll annotate this for you. Again, I only reuse pink because it shows up so much nicer on this screen as an annotation. Okay, gonna hit the word pink, hit the word waves. Let's see what this tells us. Some information here. Maybe I need to zoom out far enough to see it. Okay, on the top left of the screen, see if I annotate it before it disappears. Oh, it disappeared. In that circle, the number is going to appear. Okay, it's telling you that you have a 2-foot wave every 3 seconds. That means every 3 seconds you have a 2-foot wave coming at you and hitting your boat. What does that look like? That looks like I have something in here that's 2 foot. I think I do. Okay, every 3 seconds, you have something this big coming across and hitting your boat. Every 3 seconds, this is what's hitting your boat. Not only is it hitting your boat every 3 seconds, but they're stacking on top of each other because the wind and the waves are going against each other. Okay, so you have a 2-foot wave every 3 seconds hitting each other, hitting the side of your boat, and they're going to be cresting. Cresting is going to look like the wave at a beach. All right, when the wave crests at the beach, that's when it rolls over and you get all that white water coming into the beach. That's what it's cresting. Okay, or if anybody mentions white caps, that's a cresting wave. So today, this would not be a fun location to be right at this moment. I would not want to be in that Delaware Bay at this moment because we have the wind against the current at the moment, and we have a 2-foot every 3 seconds. It would not be a fun ride. Okay, so now why did I mention earlier? Let's slide back to the Navionics again. Why did I mention that it was going to take us? It was 13 miles from the Chesapeake City anchorage to the end of the canal. Or why did I mention that it was 22.5 miles to the mouth of the Delaware Bay? Because you have to time that and you have to know where you're going to be, when you're going to be. Okay, it doesn't matter what app you use, whether or not you're in Navionics or if you're going to be in the weather app, right? All these apps, you can slide the scale and change the time of the day to plan where you're going to be when. Okay, and then you can look to see what the weather is going to be at that time. And if you look at the same spot I mentioned earlier, the top left of the screen, at this moment of the day at 5 o'clock in the morning, now it's saying that it's 1 foot every 3 seconds. That's basically glass all the way up top. And as the closer you get to, now it's 2 foot every 4 seconds, closer you get to the Cape May Canal. All right, that's because the energy of the ocean. I could slide it over to see what the wind does. I could jump over to the wind. Okay, we can see that the wind has completely changed directions at the early time of the morning on Tuesday. If you look at the bottom center of the screen, right down here is where I have the time block. It can slide in both directions. And if you look closely at the screen, things keep changing, right? So we can see all these telltales, all of these dots. Okay, they're moving in the direction to show you what way the wind is going. And the color scale indicates the speed that the wind is going. All right, the blue indicates a slower the wind. The green indicates a moderate around between 10 to 20. And then it goes up to anything above that it's definitely not pleasant. Okay, all right, so maybe we're not early birds. Maybe we don't want to go out at 4 o'clock. Maybe we want to go a little later than that. 10 o'clock. That looks absolutely beautiful. I'm not clicking on it right now, but I'm looking at the color variations. I'm looking at the movement of the of the telltales. Or if I click on this, I'm looking only at 6 miles an hour. I'm not seeing much movement of waves, but let's look to see what the waves are saying. Oh man, that looks even better. 1 foot every 5 seconds, 1 foot every 4 seconds. That looks absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so if I was going to be leaving on Tuesday, tomorrow, maybe I wanted to get from Chesapeake City down to Cape May, or from Cape May up to Chesapeake City, and I was stuck there today and I didn't want to go there, didn't want to leave today because hey, it was raining, it was gross out. It's planned to hit the water. Tomorrow is the day because it's absolutely gorgeous. If we want to go jump over and check Navionics to see if it would be a favorable condition, favorable currents, then we can do that too, right? We can come over here and we can click on what we have already chosen, a current telltale, and we can slide that around too. I think we were talking about tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the morning. The current will be going upriver, so that would be nice and comfortable to take us up if we wanted to do that. In the mid-morning, it switches back, comes back around. And in the afternoon, right about noon, it switches. It would follow us back up north to the inn. So we would have a great ride all the way up and back. Tomorrow would be a perfect day to go to the Chesapeake Inn for lunch or dinner, if you're considering that. Okay, are there any questions about weather? Any questions? Okay. I don't see any questions. See if I can switch back to wow, this screen. Okay, now you're looking at give me a thumbs up if you are looking at a bunch of pictures of lighthouses. Okay, cool, cool. There are a whole bunch of lighthouses on the Delaware Bay. The first one you're going to be coming to is Ship John Shoal on the top right. Believe it or not, there are a couple cruises that you can go out on and pay people to ride their boats to go out and do paid tours. The New Jersey Lighthouse Society does do paid tours of all these things. I tried getting a hold of them to see if they wanted to jump on this call with us, but I think it was too last minute for them to join us. But these guys are out there, so they do a couple things. They mark the main channel, okay, for the large container ships. They do a great job of marking the channel, and they also mark some very large shoaling areas. So for one, let's make sure that we don't run into these things. And for two, let's be cautious around them because when you're around them, it's very possible that you could be coming across some large vessels in those areas. So we're going to be sliding over now back to the chart. I'm going to be showing you where these are along on the chart along the Delaware Bay. Okay. Are we now looking at Navionics? I think we are. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here. Up here at the top of the Delaware Bay, there are two markers. If I could actually click on it without it There are two monuments on both sides of the Delaware River, and they indicate the separation between the Delaware River and the Delaware Bay. So this officially is the bottom of the Delaware River and the top of the Delaware Bay. Okay, from here to Cape May is going to be 37 miles, roughly, give or take a mile. Okay, so if you're, depending upon where you're going, there is and there is not many fuel stops between here and there, and there's definitely no fuel stops right at the edge of the Delaware Bay. So if you're at this point, make sure that you have, well, you should have made sure that you had plenty of gas when you're up at Delaware City Marina or up in Salem or over in the Chesapeake City area. But you now are going to have 23 miles, 37 miles to go before you reach Cape May. Okay. And at this point, what I tend to do, I'm going to bring up I'm going to draw a route here. I go from, if you can see this red 48 here, just do a drop there. And then I zoom out and I scroll down. Okay, right here, let me just draw. And I go down to the Cape May Canal. I'm going to drop another point. Okay, now this has a track for us. All right, let's zoom out and follow it and see what it tells us to do. Up here on our recreation boats, there really is not much to worry about on this part of the Delaware River. I mean, we're not going into the shallows in this area. If we are going to shallow, we're going fishing. Be mindful of the crab pots and the oyster pots. If you're going into the shallows, especially in the top right area or the top area of, especially if you're going in this area, be careful of the crab pots and the oyster pots. They are seasonal and they do get rotated and they do get moved. Okay, we're gonna be coming, just slide down south a little bit here. We're gonna come across our first lighthouse. This is Ship John Joel Shoal Lighthouse. See if I can click on this without it making a route. Save. Oh, I don't want that. I want the lighthouse. No. Okay, give us information about the lighthouse. Okay, the lighthouse has a couple pieces of information that you want to know about. For some reason, every couple times I come through the Delaware Bay, it has so much fog in it you can't see where you're going, or you have no idea what way's left, what way's right. Hopefully you know what way's up and what way's down. Okay, it's important to know that all these lighthouses are going to have some sort of a fog signal associated with them, and you're going to hear them much further or much closer, further away than you will actually see the light. Okay. Pay attention to it. Make sure that if you hear the fog signal, just pay attention that you're going to hear that signal out there. Dogs. Okay, they also have a radar transponder beacon. That makes it show up and it makes it really bright on your radar. If you have a radar, it's really great to be able to see this thing on there. Okay. If you're going to be coming around this, maybe you're going to be interested in it, come over and look at it. There is a sandbar around it. It does only come up to a couple, like 10, 12 feet. So you should be fine, but just be mindful, especially at low tide. We can click on this tidal mark and just to double check what the depth change here is. So it looks like we go from 4.7 feet down to 0. So yeah, we lose 4 feet here. Okay, the mark 10 foot is supposed to be at average low tide, so keep that in mind. If it is a blowout tide, so that could be either a full moon blowout tide, or that could be a drought condition. If we haven't had a lot of rain, we don't get a lot of rain over the summer. We had this condition last year. We won't have the runoff in the Delaware River, so that then the water level in the river will be significantly lower than you would expect. Okay. Just zoom out here. And we will slide a little further south on the bay. On the Delaware side, it tends to get shallow fast on the Delaware side. We can see here, it's hard to see. Let me change this to so it's easier to see. Okay, so in the channel where we can see the reds and the greens, right here we have a red, and here we have the green, right? Back to the pink. All of the blue area, dark blue area on this side is the Delaware side of the bay. The Delaware side of the bay tends to get shallow fast. So if you're going to be going out there, you're going to be going fishing, be mindful of that. Also be mindful that with the waves and the wind waves, as the wave goes across an area, as the ground gets shallower, the wave will stay the same height, but the ground will get smaller underneath it. Okay, so it tends to get bigger. The wave can seemingly get larger in the shallower area. It can be very deceiving. So if you have large waves, try to stay away from the shallow areas on the Delaware side. Stop annotating. Okay, this is our next. This is our next lighthouse. This is the My Mall shoal light. Okay, this is a light tower. This is a red lighthouse. It also has a shallow area around it. Okay, so be mindful of that. It does also have rocks around it. So if you are going to go over here and fish around it, be mindful of it so you don't wind up on top of those rocks. Okay, this one also has a fog signal, and it also has a radar transponder beacon. If we look at the Jersey side over here is narrow. On Where was that? That was up here. Okay, coming down. Next light that we come across right here is the 14-foot bank light. This light is this is a large, it almost looks like a white house as a lighthouse. It's like a rectangular structure. This also has, I don't believe, does this one have a foghorn? I do not believe this one has a foghorn. But it does have a radar signature. So it's easily found in the fog. It does show that it has a foghorn symbol, but does not say what the foghorn is on the chart here. It's interesting. All right, scroll down a little bit further. And here we come across a Brandywine shoal light. This light, as you can see, comes with a larger and a much more shallower sandbar associated with it. This one tends to be a little bit more, this one is fished very often because it is the closest one to the Cape May Canal, as we can see here. If I annotate this, a lot of, delete that, those annotations. As people shoot out the canal, they like to come around and they fish around this, or they'll fish over amongst these wrecks. Okay, so there's tends to be quite a bit of traffic around this Brandywine shoal light. So if you're coming through this area, just kind of be mindful of that, and also be mindful of this sandbar to the north of the light, because you don't want to run aground as you go across that 5 foot, 6 foot area. Some of it does have lots of rocks on it. Just make sure that you are mindful of that. I think we missed one. Elbow cross ledge light. There's another one. Now we all. Still one. Okay, this is elbow cross. Elbow cross is less of a building. It more resembles that of a I don't know, it's like a light tower or one of those telephone poles that you see with all the high power going across it, but it's a big giant metal structure. It's not a lighthouse that you are used to seeing. It's just this big metal frame structure associated with it. Okay.
Here are the top search results.
Okay, a couple things to make sure that you're paying attention to in the Delaware Bay. Okay, I'm going to zoom out so we can see them. All right, first up is you're going to have quite a bit of commercial traffic. The main channel tends to be kind of obvious. That's the purpose of the red and green buoys. That's the purpose of those lighthouses, is to mark where that safe operating area is for that commercial traffic to be coming in and out. There tends to be quite a bit of commercial traffic going in and out of there, so make sure you're paying attention. Another thing is debris. Some of that debris that you do see up on the main Delaware River does still filter down into here, so it wouldn't be surprising to see some logs, some trees in this area. Another thing is up in this shallow area and along this shallow area, I frequently see some crab traps and the sorts, those crab pots. So if you're going to go be flying through that area, be making sure that you're paying attention to them. So that way you don't run them over and get them caught in your propeller. If anyone's ever had to untangle one of those, you know exactly why you gotta pay attention to one of those. Uh, all right, there is another. I'm not going to go into Lewis area. I'm going to cover Lewis on Wednesday. I'm going to cover Cape May on Wednesday. Okay. Okay. The only ways out of the Delaware Bay area here, I guess in my mind, the only places worth exiting the Delaware Bay is going to be the Maurice River up here. Okay, there's some interesting places up this river. We're going to be talking about that on Wednesday. You have the Cape May Canal. That is a destination. Down here on the bottom right. And you have the Lewis, Delaware area. Other than that, there are not really many areas of refuge. So if you're going to be planning and you're going to be crossing this area, make sure that you plan appropriately. Make sure you look at that weather, look ahead, and just plan appropriately. You don't just look at the weather or look at the wind for what it's going to be right now. Look at the weather and look at the wind for what it's going to be 8 hours from now or 9 hours from now, depending upon when you're going to be where you're going to be. Okay, hopefully all that made sense. Are there any questions? Thank you for throwing those lighthouse pictures in there as we were talking. Does anybody have any questions? Is there anything anybody wants to see? And yeah, Stuart, watching the weather is really important. The one thing I forgot to mention is that you need to consider the bay, the Delaware Bay, a lake. That's the best way to treat it, is to treat it as a lake, because a lake or a bathtub does not dissipate the energy of the waves as you would expect them to. Right? So if you're sitting in a pool or if you're sitting in a lake and a wave goes across that lake, it's just going to hit the side of it and it's going to bounce back, right? And it's just going to keep bouncing off the sides of it and it's not going to dissipate that energy. Compared to the ocean, where the wave's just going to go into the ocean and it's going to have to go all the way to Africa before it bounces back. Okay. Since the Delaware Bay is so small, as soon as you start getting a serious amount of wind in there, just because it's only blowing 20 miles an hour, that 20-mile-an-hour energy in that wave is going to hit one side of the bay, and then it's going to bounce back and go across to the other side. So it's going to be hitting each other, and it's going to just make it into a washing machine. So it's very important to pay attention to that. Thank you, everybody, for joining me this evening. This was great. Wednesday, we're going to be talking about, again, we're going to talk about the Maurice River. We're going to be talking about Lewis, Delaware entrance. and we're going to be talking about the Cape May Canal.